So it looks like we've got some people hopping on the live right now. I'm in Los Angeles. Derek, where are you right now? What
Well,
airport?
at the moment, I'm in the airport in Philadelphia on my way to Montreal, Quebec.
I feel like the quality of these business centers has greatly improved if you're able to actually do a live event from here. I mean,
Better.
congratulations us.
Exactly. We thank you, American Airlines Business Lounge,
Yeah,
yeah, for that.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
This is actually going to be the last live before the summit. So I'd love to encourage everybody to go to the Idea Citizen Company page on LinkedIn. There is going to be 2 days of programming, all centered around human centered leadership, which obviously trust and skepticism, like all this stuff kind of plays into leadership and being a good leader, of course. So it's 2 days, June 4th and 5th. 5 panels each day, 30 speakers, really an impressive group of people. I think everybody will enjoy it a lot. I think that trust and trust in this world and skepticism. I mean, honestly, Eric, like getting into these conversations while we started talking about the possibility of this event, I realized that I have a different experience or a different reality with my how I approach trust in general. Like I kind of go about it from a significantly more, I guess, casual perspective. It's not nearly as it didn't really have as much rigor, I feel like, as I've learned from like talking to you and like some things that I may want to consider. So at the end of the day, I'm very much the student here of your expertise. But
We're all,
yeah, but like I also looked up last night. I saw that there's a trust fact I found. It says that it takes
no,
only seconds to form trust, but years to rebuild it once it's brokered. Research
exactly.
shows that trust is built on consistency, credibility, and vulnerability, and once shattered, even repeated positive interactions may not fully restore it.
Well, so what does that tell us? That tells us that we're making a decision about trusting someone in an instant. The way we look at a steak dinner and we look at the plate and we decide, wow, that's a beautiful, because we eat with our eyes. We also trust with our eyes. We listen at someone's background. And a lot of times it's just who's in front of us, what they sound like, what their job is, who else they're surrounded by, and we decide to trust them. So I wanted to, at the top of this, break down those two words. If the dictionary will be consistent with this, but if you broke down the word trust to a single word that's universally applicable, that word would be access. When you trust someone, you're giving them access to your heart, your body, your mind, your soul, depending on the relationship. When you are skeptical of someone, you're restricting access.
Yeah.
So there, you're
Yeah, you're like
restrict
I'm
that.
guarding it a little bit. Yeah. Wait here, wait. Oh my gosh, hold on a sec. Wait, time out real quick. Derek, I didn't give you like a proper introduction and
That's
everything.
all
So
right.
let me back it up 1 second.
That's all right.
So joining me today is Derek Chevalier, is an executive vice president of Harrison Chevalier, a cutting edge negotiation training and consulting firm in Los Angeles. He's the creator of CNSUF, or Snuff Negotiation Framework, and the author for books including Amazon's #1 best-selling Evolve or Be Slaughtered Negotiation for the 21st Century. I will say, Derek, you're also good at like some clickbait, because that's one heck of a title there. Continue with what you were saying.
Well, two of the things is, and one of the missions that I have is expanding the way people look at negotiation. The vast majority of people, even professionals, look at negotiation and think of it only in its transactional iteration. So buying a car, buying a house, buying something, selling something, well, that's transactional. But the transactional part of negotiation is the tip, hippity tip of a huge iceberg. That that moment of transaction is is preceded by a mountain of emotions and of influence and of actions and words and studies that are designed to culminate during that transactional process. But now, so if we look and we say to ourselves, well, look, am I happy with the results of the way I've trusted people in the past? If I'm happy with those results and it's worked good for me, my message would be don't do anything. You're doing serendipity, you're doing good. But we know for about an in 50 or 60% of people, and in this environment, an increasing number of people are having struggling to understand whether or not the way they're trusting people, places, and things is accurate
I mean,
or,
yeah. I mean, how
in
can
their
we
best
not?
interest.
Let's.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, um, uh, my trust and skepticism. Ultimately, it's like I feel like I'm on like high alert every day or every moment. Like, I mean, you're even like passively on the internet, scrolling and everything. It's like, I don't know. Should I believe some of this stuff? Like, I will
Yeah.
say, like, some of this technology, it looks quite convincing. I'm like, and obviously we'll go into like the digital component of it, but even like, okay, so, we started talking about having this event. Like, in your opinion, like, what makes somebody seem trustworthy on first impression, like from like a critical standpoint, not just, I mean, intuitively, I know what I feel, but like, what does that look like from like the experts?
Okay. So again, for the audience, let's break it down to one word: intent. So if trust is access, right? So if we're trusting someone, we're giving them access to our body, mind, heart, and soul, our money, our belief, our vote, whatever it is. So the question really is in the intersection between trust and skepticism is what is the intent of the person that I'm considering trusting? Is their intent to persuade me to believe something regardless of whether or not it is factually true or in my best interest? Or is it their intent to guide me and provide access to more truth or questions or answers? Or really, is it to take advantage of me? Now, if you put that in a transactional realm, what are salespeople paid to do? Every salesperson.
So,
How about that? And so ultimately, when we're interacting with someone who is trained and paid to sell something, we have to be we can be, because we don't have to be, but we might want to be focused on what's the intent of that person. Well, it's to sell you. Well, if you know that that person's intent is to sell you, can you trust that what they're telling you is in your best interest, or is it in their best
yeah.
interest and the intent?
Yeah. And inherently it is in their best interest, but ultimately like I feel like the best case scenario is that like yes, it's in their best interest, but it also benefits you, or that is the
Well,
intent or it provides value.
well, perceived value for sure. And by the way, perception trumps reality. Because yesterday, for instance, Eric Trump on a panel to a Bitcoin convention actually said, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit, he actually said, "Hey guys, Bitcoin is the complete package. It's more transparent, it solves all the problems, it's readily available, we can trust it, and if you get in on the ground floor, you're gonna make a fortune." Now you tell me
Hey,
if
there's no, like, I mean, well, but also, I mean, I will say there's no ground floor right now. What are we talking about? Bitcoin's been around for like, like, I mean, I don't particularly care for the vessel of the information. Just let me start there, but also that like
yeah.
that information is just completely like wrong, but
Well,
factually.
I'm just saying, but there were thousands of people in that audience and he's making these statements, and you'll find that I paraphrase, but very close to exactly what he said. Now, you tell me what is factual about the idea. And by the way, his father is just fired the person who said we ought to regulate Bitcoin, and people cheered for that, and they're deregulating everything about it. They don't want any regulation as they become
Yeah.
wholly
So these
invested.
things are at odds.
So do you trust him? Do you give him access to your money?
The
But
messages don't match. I'll say that. The messages
yeah,
don't match.
but for 50% of the country, it matches very well. He just had a dinner where the people paid $100,000 to have access and a seat in their meme coin. And the meme coin is even less reliable. It is absolutely air. The only reason it's valuable is because somebody believes it's
Well, to your
valuable.
point, the perceived value part of it, it's, yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So the
So, I mean,
point
I feel like
about
what we're highlighting here is like, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but it's like the pattern recognition of some of the stuff where it's like there's inconsistency. And I mean, like that's ultimately going to lead to like, you know, doubt.
right. Well, hopefully, but if we're meeting when we meet someone and we're talking about trusting them, whether it's a personal or a business relationship, again, if people are thinking, am I willing to give access to this person, to my heart, to my wallet, to my bank account, or to other data and information about me emotionally, am I willing to do that? That would be the first question. The second question might be, on what basis am I making that decision? And 95% of your audience will find that they're making that decision based upon the way they feel and based upon the way something looked or someone looks. Now, first of all, we know that feelings are not facts.
Okay, can I dispute this a little bit? So I'm not,
Yeah.
okay, so let's
Yeah.
go to, because,
Yeah.
okay, so one of the things, at least like, therapy, that
Yeah.
I've like, somewhat like relied on, like, or at least, here I am today with decades of like life experience. So there's one. I am alive, breathing with a roof over my head. So my point being is that we're going with this is that like a feeling that I have pertaining to someone, like my life has led me to this point today where I have made relatively decent decisions and everything that have not left me, dead. Let's just start, like let's just finalize that. But like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also, I mean,
Premature.
if you even back into it a little further, there are uh, you know, centuries and centuries of ancestors and everything that have made certain subsequent decisions and everything that have led to their ability to live and procreate that have ultimately led to me sitting here today and you and everybody listening here. So like, let me so because I mean, feeling, I feel that like I can sometimes get a sense for somebody. And I guess my question to you is that like, can I trust my feelings? Because I also feel like my feelings are based on various different external cues that I'm reading, things I've learned and listened to, and different kind of factors that I've like pulled in from the environment. So, um, like, is my feeling actually based on other factual components, or is it just like kind of the amalgamation of all these things, and that like it turns into the feeling part of it?
It absolutely is an amalgamation of everything that came before. Now, this is one of the key because I'm going to take this back to negotiation. Here's where people on your call never would see negotiation, but the evolved framework, you know what it looks at? It first looks at a person's political, socioeconomic, right? Their social, geographical, socioeconomic, and political background. It then looks at the institutions and organizations in which they were raised. And then it says, how does the institutions and organizations, how have those impacted the geography, political, and socioeconomic environment they grew up within? And then ultimately, how did all those impact the personal and behavioral attributes of the person in front of me? So exactly what you just said, because people are a reflection of all those things that came before and all those ingredients. But here's the thing. Um, if I have an objective in business or interacting with someone, why am I interested in that person's background and where they came from? Well, I'm interested because that's going to inform the tools and the strategy I use to either confirm or neutralize or alter their feelings. See,
Yeah.
when any negotiator, especially when I talk about an evolved negotiator, understands that someone is led by their feelings, the evolved negotiator is going to negotiate your feelings. That's what they're going to focus on.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, this is the whole, mythology behind what people talk about win-win. Well, what is win-win? It's a mythology because you come in feeling one way about what you want and what you're willing to pay and what you're willing to do to get it. I come in with what I want and what I'm willing to do to get it and whatnot. And then we both know that this is everything we want, but if I can't get all of that, the least I'm going to settle for is X. And so then we settled somewhere in the middle. That's a typical, whether it's tactical or transactional or emotional, that's what happens. You want a perfect guy, man, woman, or whoever you want to love, but you'll settle for somebody who has these qualities,
Yeah.
right? At least that. Now, at the end of the day, what happens? What happens then is I think, gee, um, that's a win-win, and now I'm in a relationship with someone. Well, if that was accurate, why do we have 49 and 51% divorce rate, and probably a 60%? The average person that's 30 years old right now is projected to have somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 significant relationships, meaning physical, emotional relationships within their lifetime. That doesn't also always mean sex, but they're having an emotional interaction and physical interaction with someone in a significant way before they actually end up with somebody. Well, if your feelings are so accurate, how come do we miss so many times?
Oh, oh man. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. But okay, so all right, but so then let's play this out. I mean, isn't in baseball and everything like a pretty poor batting average actually, like if you like break it down to actually a to a percentage is actually like amazing. Like these people are Hall of Famers and everything. So it's like um and I guess, yeah, gosh,
Good
I have to
point.
like
That's
resolve some of my feelings around some of this stuff because I mean, with chatting with friends, sometimes it's like, oh, it's uh, like at least with it where it pertains to like relationship, it's like really like if it works once, like you're doing it right, and like that's it's not intended or it's not intended to like work 15 times or something like that. But granted, like if it takes you 15 times to get there and everything, yeah, you're doing this based on tuition and you're also trusting what potentially people come into the scenario with versus not. Um, one factoid I found was that only 34% of Americans say most people can be trusted, and it's down from 46% in 1972. So let me ask you this: is that like, I mean, we're post-pandemic. I feel like it's something that comes up. So like, where are we today in terms of like, pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and everything? Like, I guess number one, like, in your opinion, what is the general sentiment? But then also number two, what do we do about some of this stuff?
okay. Well, um, two questions that you're asking. Yeah, there's no question that post-pandemic and the increase of AI, which is where the increase, because AI has been a long time around a long time, but it's never been more prolific as it is right now. Then you take social media, then you take things like Zoom and the fact that the pandemic significantly increased interaction with human beings where they're not in the same place. Now, add to that that probably 65% of men spend hours in a week at a baseball, basketball, or football game, or else playing one in the virtual world. And of course, wouldn't you be surprised that the emotional IQ of people would go down and the trust quotient of people will go down because the vast majority of interaction they're having with people is virtual and connected only to the presence that somebody wants you to see. So has anybody in the audience ever seen somebody on social media, for instance, whether professional or personal? You see them, you read their profile, you see their pictures, their videos, and then you meet them, and there's no association between it. I
Yeah.
mean, am I the
I mean,
only
even
one
for
that
anybody joining
happens
here,
to?
why should you trust us? I mean, like, and
Yeah,
it's like we should, I mean, to some degree, it's like I think everybody should, like, make sure that, like, you're making everybody to some degree, like, earn it, if anything. And it's like, what is
thank
it?
you.
I mean, we're also like virtual world and everything. It's like,
Yeah,
what is it? Like, we're
yeah.
sitting here, a virtual environment, like, we don't. Well, so let me ask you this. Okay, so to your point, like the virtual component versus in person, like let's bring it, LinkedIn, let's talk about like professionally. So like how like what does building trust or making sure like you're presenting a sense of trust and everything look like? Does it look differently virtually versus like in person? Like what are those things that like also I'm gonna I'm gonna hope I'm gonna give everybody the benefit about. I feel like generally people are good. Like I like to live my life like that. So it's like, um, how do we make sure we're not convincing people we are trustworthy, but conveying that we are a trustworthy person? Because again, I'm hoping we are in fact.
Right. Well, there's a couple things. In my book, Evolve or Be Slaughtered, I talk about this, and in every live event I do, and in this virtual event, I'll share this. I really admonish people not to believe a word that comes out of my mouth. Don't believe it. But what I also ask them to do is not to disbelieve it based upon how they feel about it or based upon whether or not it agrees or disagrees with something they already thought or believed before they heard it. So do your homework, number one.
What does that look
And
like? What does homework
well,
look like?
yeah, for me, and it would look like, for instance, when we got together, we were watching. I certainly started posting on your website. I hadn't met you, and then at some point, I'm posting on there, I'm on there, and then at some point, you were looking at some of my stuff, and then we had a conversation. Now, when we had the conversation, for me, speaking personally, when we actually got on the first call we ever had, everything that I understood about the content and about the intent and of Idea Citizen, everything that you presented and who you were was authentic to that. So had we had that first video call, and for me, I just clicked. I immediately kind of like, yeah, I get it. There's a consistency here. And then each time we talked ever, that got stronger
Yeah.
because we were
Yeah.
talking about, I'm going to do X, and you did X. Well, we can do this. We're talking about this outline, how we're going to do, and then you followed through on that. And then we followed back through up. And then we watched the way
And
we
when
were
things went
able to.
wrong, we were honest.
Yeah, you go like, "Hey, what yeah, and how about that?" And so one of the key things that I say about relationship is this. Keep in mind, and this has been my experience, but the experience of many of my clients as well. Keep in mind, you don't know the intent of someone until there's a problem. You don't know who someone is until there's a problem because people only take advantage of you very often unless they really are not good people. So if we assume that many people are good, and I agree with you, that's a better way to approach it. But I also know this: people and emotions are opportunistic. So if the people see an opportunity to take advantage of you, many of them will.
Yeah. Well, let's
And
be honest.
so,
We're also on this call because we both see like there's potential opportunity here. Like me
of course,
as podcaster live and everything. It's like I see an
sure,
opportunity to create interesting content. I think provide value to my audience and everything. And I anticipate for you, or I'm assuming is that like you're like, okay, hey, maybe I can expand. Make people aware
sure,
of my brand and what I'm offering, this and
sure,
that. So it's like we're
exactly.
looking for different things, but it's like friendly.
But yes, but also then if you turn around and said, for instance, that someone went and bought my book. Now I'll tell you this, somebody goes and buys my book and does not see in it where I said, don't believe a word I said. But if you don't see that, then let me know, or you read that book and you tell me that that book is fundamentally not reflective about what I'm saying on this call, I will happily refund your money and give you another
Oh yeah, we
100%.
talked about the guarantees. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Okay, this is a
no.
really good point. I realize we're kind of jumping around and everything, but like, so because I saw something. Somebody once said on LinkedIn that they were like, if anybody offers you like a year-long contract and everything that you can't break, don't believe them. And when I remember we talked, this was fun actually. So, what was your version on like your contract with people? I loved it.
Well, in my trick is pretty easy, which is people have a choice. Like I have a fee for a service depending on what we're going to do. Now, you can pay my fee and that's great, or you cannot pay my fee and you can pay me a percentage of the outcome of whatever it is we're doing. Now, if you don't know me very well, you may actually take that percentage deal because there's almost no obligation to you, right? Like we're going to work together and we're looking for a particular outcome. And if you don't get that outcome, it's like the lawyer that says, we don't charge unless we win, right? Well, you don't find many consultants on LinkedIn or people, coaches and trainers that are telling you, yeah, you know, join my program, do the program, and if you don't see a result that is least equal to what I charge you to be here, we'll refund your money. What they do is they want to be paid first. They want you to be the work, and then what's the guarantee? We'll continue to work with you if you don't get the results. Now, I typically say to these coaches and gurus and stuff, I say, so you want me to believe that if I pay you $15,000 and do your program, you're certain that I'm going to get an outcome. That's why you contacted me. And your program's so good and you help 900 other people, and that's why you have such confidence, right? Yeah, that's true. So you want me to pay you 15,000 and your guarantee to me is if you are unsuccessful, you promised to do for free what you could not do for $15,000 until I get a result. Is that your offer?
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna make you double down on your guarantee and everything. Like, let me, yeah, it's
Now,
like
at
prove
that
it.
now, if somebody said, "No, let's rework it," you tell me of the people on this call, how many times, if you're talking to an established guru, they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. They're not willing to put their money because then they say, "Well, I don't know what your performance is, and I don't know how." Then you weren't a very good judge of character. Then you need to vet your process before you take on clients. But if your objective is to take on anybody that will pay you a fee, and I clearly don't understand why we have people that are online coaches that go, yeah, you can make $100,000 speaking with no experience. You don't even have to be good. You can do a TED talk. You can sell 100,000 books and make $25,000 like I did. Well, my question is, if you're making $100,000 doing TED Talks, what are you out there selling to Joe Blow who has no skill? Did you get your gig by having no experience and you're not very good and you didn't have a book and you didn't have a, but you're willing to tell Joe Blow that they
He
can
can
do
do, yeah,
those things,
yeah, yeah.
right? Yeah. So do you trust that? A lot of people do. Look online and see the number of
Well, I
coaches
mean,
that are out
online
there.
too, like you're seeing a lot of like people that are, what is it, selling the pitchforks and everything. But it's like there's a lot of business in like selling somebody like their dreams ultimately, as opposed to like doing the dream, if
Yeah.
anything. But like fair, I mean, there's a place
Yeah,
for it all.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
you have to assess.
here's the bottom line that I say to you, because ultimately what I hear you asking is this: how do we protect ourselves? Okay. First of all, by understanding that trusting someone is giving them access to your body, mind, your heart, your soul, and your wallet. So the first obvious question would be, is why am I willing to provide that access to ABC person? Why am I willing to do that? And then let's just start with being honest. Because I think they're beautiful, because I think they're handsome, because I think they're attractive. Okay, if that's it, and then you get played, then you don't have any regret about that because you know that you trusted someone on the basis of an exterior quality that had nothing to do with the substance of their intent. Someone can be very handsome or very beautiful and also have the intent of completely taking advantage of you. But if you went into it saying, yeah, I think they're attractive and I want to be in that relationship and I'm willing to extend that access, then you get played and you go, well, I was willing to invest that in this now the next time you're in, you might want to look a little deeper and say,
Yeah,
why
right.
am I providing that access? If you did nothing else, then ask that question before you're willing to trust. Now, on the other side of it, there's skepticism, which means restricting access. Then how do I do that? Well, restricting access simply means that we have a clear and present understanding about someone's intent, and the less we know about their intent, the less access we would give. So that would mean that a relationship would build over time, and we're going to have bumps in the roads, and things are not going to go well. And you're going to see someone when they fail or when something doesn't go well, and over that period of time you build a set of experiences that reinforce that intent, and then you provide more access. If people did nothing more than that from a political, emotional relationship, we would protect our hearts, and we would also avoid a lot of unnecessary lessons. I love the idea, what the old saying that says, experience is a good teacher, but a fool will learn and no other.
A fool will learn and no other. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Right? So
yeah.
you can learn. You need to get hurt 15 times because you choose the person that's so beautiful
Yeah,
or
you got to
so
get rid of the
perfect.
rose-colored glasses. It's like that.
Like you can choose to go, wait a second, I've done this,
Yeah,
and then do something else.
yeah.
That's a choice. But I also think that if you choose not to do that, I recently told a client who just puts obstacles in their way because they're more comfortable with the obstacles of not getting something done than they are with doing the work to get it done. And I said to them that finally, I said, look, I have no problem with that. My problem is you want to tell yourself that you're actually making progress when you're choosing not to make progress because you're comfortable where you are. Just face what it is. That empowers you. Whereas BSing ourselves about you can trust somebody on a dime, yes, you can. The question is who?
Yeah. Well, and let me ask you this. Okay, so like I started
Yeah,
off our conversation around, how quickly you can like break trust and everything. And like, what about like, and what about rebuilding trust? Like, is that
yeah,
like, I mean, because okay, so there's two things, and I guess this maybe plays a little bit into like one of the questions I saw in the chat from Daniel from Sofia, Bulgaria, and he was asking like, how is AI going to affect conventional negotiations? And I also feel like this kind of plays into like, building, rebuilding, establishing, and everything. So it's like, how do we in the world that we're currently in, like how do we if I think AI, tell me if I'm wrong or tell me your opinion, but like I feel like AI kind of um makes this all a little bit less, stable. It's like a little bit like it's a little like
yeah.
there's like plenty of holes in this. So it's like where do we go from here?
Yeah, we face the reality that number one, the statistics came out yesterday, and a number of very sophisticated gurus regarding AI are saying that AI over the next 5 to 10 years are going to eliminate somewhere in the neighborhood between 40 and 70% of manufacturing and labor jobs and whatnot. So if you believe it or don't believe it, it's going to happen. So the first thing we need to know is then how does that impact the way we are experiencing the world? Well, number one, if you have a technical background, math, sciences, and engineering, for instance, or if you simply prepared to be able to utilize the AI technology effectively, you're going to be light years ahead of somebody who is waiting to understand what that technology can do. And to the other question of the audience was asking, I am on this trip to meet with an AI company that is interested in taking the content. They already have an AI bot that works on neurophysiological areas. In other words, that bot looks at someone and helps their clients understand the neurophysiological motivations, strengths, and weaknesses of somebody that I might be interacting with. Now
Is it
they're
like
in.
I mean, is it like geodes or I don't know if it's like sensors that's like on somebody's body or it's like literally like I'm imagining in my head some like Mission Impossible scanning somebody's body. Like where do you get these like triggers?
Well, there is that technology that will be able to actually use. There are nanobots and micro nanobots that will play into this easily within a decade. But we're talking about right now, where what happens is they're helping clients understand, and they use social media to construct a biography based upon a lot of different data points about what's motivating that person. In other words, in one instance, determining what does that person really want? What need are we actually trying to fill? Because if we understand the need we're trying to fill, it doesn't matter what they say they want. We're going to do what it takes to get them to can get connected to what they really want. And when they see that, there's a neurophysiological acceptance. Oh, yeah, this is what I wanted. But to my point, I'm meeting with them because they're interested in taking the content from Evolve, uploading that into their bot. So essentially, when somebody goes to that bot, they can present an issue or a problem, and not only will they get the neurophysiological standpoint, that they will get an actual strategy of what, when, where, how, and who to do it. This is what this trip is about. And there's other AI companies that are interested in that too. So be informed and don't get left behind. This is not a time, especially young people. If you're talking about people your age, you're talking about people that are in their 23, 24, and up into their 40s and early 50s and everywhere in between. You have an obligation to realize that we do not live in the world that your parents lived in.
No.
It's over, it's done. You have to be prepared to live in the world where we are, and your motivations need to be the consequences of not paying attention to that. So your education, your relationships, your goals and objectives have to intersect with AI and with technology, not just where it is, but where it's going. Because this is happening at the speed of light, and those who get left behind will be left behind for generations, because we're seeing a time in which we've already seen the transfer of wealth be so significant that many people, like many my kids, would never be able to do what I did. I grew up with a single mother in low income housing, and I do pretty well, and then you get college degrees and blah blah. But they can, never do that today. They could never. I couldn't buy
It's
the
hard.
house I live in today. Now, are there other things that you can do that put you on that cutting edge? Yes, but certainly trusting everyone in front of you is not a good idea.
Yeah, yeah.
Understanding that it's access and understanding that skepticism is a tool,
Yeah.
but it's also a weapon.
Yeah.
Trust can be a weapon too. But skepticism can be a weapon or it can be a tool for good, depending on what you're willing to sacrifice to get where you're going to
Yeah,
go.
one of the things, I mean, one of the things I've really gotten, because, hey guys, we're going to be wrapping up in about 10 minutes because Derek's traveling and everything. But so anybody that has any questions, please add into the chat and we'll make sure to address them. But one of the things I've also just taken from, from what the conversation that we've been having is really, like, really taking kind of pause and thinking about like people's motivations. Because I think that will, of course, like clearly, I mean, we started this conversation really with that, but like, I think with the various different scenarios that you shared, it's kind of like, oh yeah, like really consider what people's motivations are when you are engaging in them in whatever capacity. It's like professionally as an employer and everything, as, in a relationship, as a friendship as well. Like, what are their motivations? And I think,
Well,
addressing
let me
that
ask you a
accordingly.
question.
Yeah.
Right. Let me ask you a question. So because let's help the audience. So if you ask yourself a question and you say, well, what is that person's motivations?
Yeah.
And and you have an answer, what should we do with that answer?
Okay. Yeah. What should we do with that answer?
Because
Um,
it's in the book.
Okay, well, I didn't read the book, so I need to read the
No, okay.
book. But what should we do with it? I mean, well, Derek, so please tell me, because honestly, I'm going to sit here like twiddling my
You
thumbs.
you 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 have a choice. If you said to someone, "What is that person's intent?" and you goes, "Their intent is blah 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 blah," you then have a choice. You can assume that your uh, presumption is correct, that they are blah 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 blah. You can assume that, and then your actions will be consistent. You'll provide more access, wouldn't you? Or if you can decide to say, wait a second, how can I protect myself while I'm finding out
If that
whether or
is in
not
fact.
how about that? And
Hmm.
that's what I teach people to do. What I'm simply saying is if we're working on the facts, like I say, because what is it? If I said, well, what is Jackie's intent? And I said, well, Jackie's intent in blah, 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 blah. Those by definitions are assumptions. Now I can move forward with that assumption, or I can reveal and accept, hey, that's an assumption. How should I confirm that before I would provide additional access to body, mind, heart, and soul? Right? So I might ask some questions. I might look to see that all the ingredients are matching up in a way that's genuine and consistent. That's the practical application, because the alternative of that is just to go, I'm going with the way I feel. No worries. Just be prepared for the consequences at the end of the day, and then use the consequences as as a way to grow, rather than as a way to convince yourself that you're not worthy, which is so much what we do. We decide what failure and what success is on really shaky grounds. And I don't want to get off this call without sharing that I think that what people need to do are three things. Number one, understand that life requires riches, which is dollars and cents or yen or wherever you're from, because you got to pay the rent and blah, blah, blah. But it also requires wealth. And wealth is an appreciation for the things that money cannot buy. You cannot buy your daughter on your lap smiling or happy or making a demand. You cannot, if you had all the money in space, you cannot look at the sky and the Milky Way and go, gee, if I had more money, I could buy it. But if you if you miss that, who cares that you have money? So the thing that I really propose to people to think about is this. For one, stop pursuing balance in life. It's frickin' ridiculous. It's impossible. If you and I get on a teeter-totter, we would spend our entire life trying to balance that difference, and any slight move would put us out of balance. So I really propose to my clients to stop seeking balance and start seeking harmony, which is the coexistence of divergent notes. That means that one thing can go wrong and I still have the appreciation for the other thing. So The philosophy I espouse to is based on Bruce Lee. Be like water. You put water in a cup, it becomes the cup, and that creates harmony. And the more skill we have, the more capability we have for becoming water,
I
right?
love it. I like that. I like that. I mean, so we have 5 more minutes. I have,
All
okay,
right,
so I'm hoping to do like, I guess for me, this is kind of a bridge to the summit and everything is
ah,
selfishly.
good.
So, what is the biggest, I guess, like leadership? I'm thinking like whether very much organizationally, let's call it, building trust within an organization or your team or whatnot. Like, is there maybe like, I mean, I feel like, you can espouse like from some of this conversation, but like if when you're coaching any sort of leaders of organizations, like, is there like, what's like the pinnacle? Like you're like, this is what we're aspiring to.
So there is no one size fits all, but there are principles that we can look at, right? So, in terms of leadership, the greatest quality about leadership is consistency. And
Right.
let's face the truth, a leader can only be as trustworthy as they have the power to be consistent. So what does that tell you in an environment in which entire departments and organizations and even prestigious universities are taken to task in a moment because of the leadership? That means that that we need to be nimble and understand that today we live in a state of flux. That means that we have to be prepared to shift quickly. And any leader who is not as honest about their limitations as they are about their ability to help you achieve an outcome is someone that I would not trust because they don't have the power to protect you in a firestorm. So, with a grain of salt and understanding that the intent may be that they want to be good leadership, but a great leader is somebody whose primary focus is to see you achieve at the highest possible level with or without them.
Because it benefits them ultimately. Yeah.
Right? Yeah, but it's what we leave behind after and what someone takes away after that interaction that may be for me for the best leaders and certainly for myself. I'm proud about that. I can go on, if you go on my website or you go on to, I'm proud that the people that recommend my book and my services are people in some cases that started out of college and are now top lawyers and working for top firms, or they now have their boss's job. They were 23, 24 years old, and now they're dominating in as doctors, lawyers, and across the spectrum. And I have students from 35 years ago who have children of their own and all that. And recently, one of them said, from molding young minds to international business. Ultimately, I get online, those kids think I gave them something, when the reality is that when I am down or whatever, and I go on and I see that these kids are now, living great lives.
Yeah.
They have professions and
Wealth. You're talking to
PhDs.
wealth. You're a wealthy
There you
man.
go. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the key, and that's what I think that good and great leadership ought to lead to: nurturing and inspiration as well as motivation. And good money doesn't hurt either.
No, it doesn't. I mean, money helps. It does.
M- we got to have the riches too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Derek, do you want to I mean, these are some great final thoughts. I always like to, what do you want to pitch? You want to pitch your book?
Yeah, you know what? Yes, I pitch two things. I think anybody that's in business or who really wants to understand what the cutting edge of negotiation is, I will tell you this flat out. There is no better negotiation book on planet Earth right now that is designed for this time period, the end. That is true. And so test me on that. But the second thing that I would share with people is this: if you've got a question or something that a dynamic you're facing, we offer a free, no cost, no BS consultation. And I'm not going to have you talking to somebody else. We'll schedule, you'll talk to me. We'll spend 30 minutes. If I can provide you with some action steps or with some suggestions about how to approach something, whether it's us or then that
This is
gives me
so
an
generous.
opportunity to
I
do
will
it.
be taking you up on
I'm
this.
happy. I no. The only way to actually understand, let's do it and make a call and let's have a conversation. Whether you buy the book, you don't buy the book, because out of that, I will learn something. I will share the best I can, and at least point you in the right direction or in a direction to pursue. So take advantage of it. You go on our website and schedule it right there.
Awesome. Awesome. I hope anybody that, has some questions, please take advantage of it. That's incredibly generous. And Derek, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Audience, thank you
you're
guys
worth
for
the wait
joining
in
us.
Gillum.
Please follow me, follow Derek on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Please RSVP to the Idea Citizen Summit next week. I think guaranteed to be really engaging and interesting and just with really amazing speakers. And Derek, I have a feeling we're going to continue this conversation
I
one of
hope
these
so. Because
days.
wait a minute, I want to encourage people to go to the summit because I'm going to spend some time on some of those panels in Silk too. But also, I want to say to your audience, and I ain't getting paid for it, you are a genuine, really wonderful. Who they see is who you are, and they can take that to the bank. That,
Oh, thank you.
believe me, and I'm too old to have to say that. I
I'm
only
too
say it
tired to
because
try
I
to
want
play,
to.
be something else. Well, legitimately, you meet me, like, we meet me at an event. Literally, this is the same person. I'm going to
Yeah.
say, this is the thing. I actually get in trouble being the same person in every single environment. So, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, but that's a genuine and really professional, smart. And I kind of fell in love with your daughter
Oh,
in a
thank you.
heart mindset. She's so you're reflected in her eyes, that joy and passion she has. So anyway, thank you to your audience, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
All right.